also includes the section that you use as a quote at the very beginning of your own novel.
This is how to behave in the presence of men who you don't know very well. In this way, they won't recognize immediately the slut I have warned you against becoming. Be sure to wash every day, even if it is with your own spit. Don't squat down to play marbles. You are not a boy, you know. Don't pick people's flowers. You might catch something. Don't throw stones at blackbirds, because it might not be a blackbird at all. This is how to make bread pudding. This is how to make duckano. This is how to make pepper pot. This is how to make a good medicine for a cold. This is how to make a good medicine to throw away a child before it even becomes a child.
So, Amani, why did that particular line jump out to you? You're not a boy, you know. Don't pick people's flowers. You might catch something. Don't throw stones at blackbirds, because it might not be a blackbird at all.
Flowers obviously should be something beautiful, but there is danger in that, and it's the danger of being drawn to what you want. And there's a line where her grandmother says to her in the book, you only need to be worried when you do want something. And it's this knowledge that the women in her family have around unbridled desire and what that can lead to. And again, the idea of it might not be a blackbird at all, but what you think and perceive is probably not true of the world, which feeds into this idea of her own narcissism and the fact that Yusra as a character, she thinks she knows everything, but she doesn't. This again is where her mother is trying to come in and protect her from herself.
Well, let's listen to a short clip now of Jamaica Kincaid talking to Radio 4 in 2019 about a theme that can often be found in her work.
A lot of my writing is about mother and daughter, but really I could early on see before any critic, I may have pointed it out to critics, that I was really writing about imbalance of power, and the mother country and the mother, the domestic mother, is quite intertwined. And if you really give a cursory and then thoroughly investigation into colonialism, you will see how much the colonial world has to do with the domestic, and the domestic is almost always the female domain.
So as Jamaica Kincaid is saying there, yes, she might be writing about a mother and a daughter, but she's also always writing about much more than that, isn't she?
She is completely, and yeah, when I listened to her talking about that, it made me think again about unconscious things that you do in your work. And at the beginning of Honey, it begins with this image of domestic labour. Yusra has hoovered the whole house for a boy who's not going to show up, and it really pisses her off. You know, for someone who by the end of the novel is cleaning up blood, not hoovering, you think, how could she even be a woman who does this? And it's sort of these different like shifting images in a text. So you could be like, oh, she's just hoovering a house, or in Jamaica Kincaid's piece, oh, she's just telling her daughter how to bake bread. And then the layers unfold and unravel below that.
Let's come now to your final pick of influences, Amani. And this is a book of collected works and essays titled Your Silence Will Not Protect You by the American writer and activist Audre Lorde, who died in 1992. What's the connection here, Amani, between your novel Honey and the writings of Audre Lorde?
So I read this essay collection. I'd read some of her essays through my studies, and then I sat down and read the full collection just as I started writing Honey. I think Audre Lorde is an incredible writer and thinker, and when I read her at university, she was such a tonic to what I was, all of this very dense academic prose that I was reading that sort of in many ways removed emotion and again removed a creative flair of writing. And in her, I was like, well, here's someone who can really write, who's putting emotion back into things, yet still maintains all of this analysis. And there was one essay in particular that I read at the beginning of Honey a few times, which is the uses of anger. And in the essay she talks about, it's largely about the failings of white feminism to incorporate black feminism, black women. But she describes how anger is loaded with information and energy, and how if you tap into it, it can be a very vital source. And as I say, I sort of set up the premise of Honey around this idea of what if a woman was to tap into her rage, before I then realised that it's not rage, that this fell away, but I can't underplay the influence on that at the beginning of the novel.
So is this the sort of Rosetta Stone, the foundational text?
It is,
of Honey?
yes.
And it's interesting to talk about the role of anger itself as an influence, Amani. Audre Lorde is writing about it. Your character of Yrsa is thinking about it all the time, including the way that the word is often inappropriately used to label black women. And Mallory Blackman has spoken of writing your first pick of influences, Noughts and Crosses, to process the anger she felt at the racially motivated murder of Stephen Lawrence and the subsequent inquiry that found what was described as institutional racism within the Metropolitan Police Force. So what are the uses of anger to you as a writer?
I think that we should be angry, and something that I've noticed when people have said to me, oh, I wasn't sure if I was going to like Honey because maybe we've kind of done female rage novels, and we, this is something that's not new to look at, like the angry woman. And I've noticed something in this, and something maybe unconsciously that we can do when we do say, oh, this is like the trope of the female rage novel, is to belittle it in a way that is similar to if you say, oh, you're just an angry black woman. Because again, we should be angry. I was writing this in a culture where we had seen Donald Trump become elected, and now it's being published into a culture where we have the Epstein files out. We are in a society where misogyny is bubbling up and over. Things like the manosphere, the rise of incel culture. So as women, again, we should be angry. Like, what's going on if we're not?
And it's interesting to think in the context of your novel, Amani, that your character, Yrsa, will likely be very familiar with all of the three influences that you picked today. You've channeled these three influences to write a novel, but your character, Yrsa, has channeled them to go in a rather different direction, hasn't she?
She has indeed, yeah. That's funny, I never thought of Yrsa having read these books. I think as a young girl, I imagined her reading things like, I don't know, Hegel, because she'd be like, oh, that's important. I have to read these grand philosophers. But yes, no, I mean, of course, she is taking all of these academic influences, all of this theory, and she is using it to her own means and her own ends. And she is actually using a theory in a way that is very contradictory to how the theorists themselves, I think, want their theory to be used.
But it's illustrating the double-edged sword of influences. Influences can be dangerous.
Influences can be dangerous, that's true. I mean, I think we can take anything and read it any which way. That's the other side of words and of books and writing, that of course you can pull things out of context, you can interpret to your heart's content.
Well, who knew, listeners, that Take 4 Books could be dangerous? Sorry to say that we have run out of time on today's programme. Before we go, a huge thank you to my guest on this episode, Amani Thompson. And just as a quick reminder, Amani's new novel, Honey, is out now, and her three picks of influences were Mallory Blackman's Noughts and Crosses from 2001, Jamaica Kincaid's Girls from 1978, and Audre Lorde's Your Silence Will Not Protect You from 2016. If you've enjoyed this programme and want to hear more authors talk about their new books and the works that influenced them, then go to BBC Sounds, search for Take 4 Books, and hit the subscribe button. I'm James Crawford, and this has been Take 4 Books for BBC Radio 4.